Good morning, everyone. This is our second session in the webinar series Device Development Excellence. Today's topic is design controls. We will have a closer look at the functionality within the 3D Experience platform in Innovia, an enterprise PLM platform, and the part which is directly related to design controls. As mentioned, this is the second session in a webinar series. We started off the series on the 4th of November with a general introduction on why does the 3D Experience platform in Innovia, why does it bridge innovation and compliance, and why does PLM bridge innovation and compliance, concluding that we're building in compliance through our product development process. That session from the 4th of November has been recorded, and it's available on our website under events, where you can view the previous sessions directly in your browser. The URL is, you navigate to that site through the ordinary www.technia.com website, go onto events. I'll show you directly in the browser. I went through the website, selected events, and then I come directly to the current events, so the webinar series. This is where you registered for this event today, and it gives an overview of the upcoming sessions, and it also lists the completed webinars, and there you can find the movie from the last session. So the topic for today is design controls, and we'll go back to this topic here. This is where we started last time, pointing out that whenever we implement PLM, we always stress the product definition, of course, to make sure that we have one version of the truth. Current revision or the relevant revision with the relevant documentation available and present in the structure. So that's what we have under one on the left-hand side. Equally important is the compliance status, and that's what we have on the right-hand side, to make sure that at any point in time during the product development project or product development, we should be able to determine what is compliance status. Are we compliant on the markets where we want to be present with the regulations which are relevant for compliancy on that specific market? Topic of today, though, is the status of the development project or the development projects. So as you can see in item number 3, we want to know exactly where we are, how far we've gone with the particular project, and of course we want to understand how does that relate to the product, and what is the likelihood, what are the risks, what's the likelihood that we will complete the project on the given time. So that's the essence of today. True for design controls. A key driver for PLM in general, but also of course for medical device, is to support a global product development and change process. And in order to do that, we need to describe our projects and our project organization in one way or another. Also, as pointed out, with PLM for device development, we are building in compliance through product development activities. So whenever we store any deliverable in product development, that is automatically typed and mapped towards the DHF. And I can also sync it to be up to date with the DMR. So when it comes to design controls, typically the functionality we're referring to then is project execution, typically for a global product development project. We do the planning of projects based on project templates because we want to build on previous knowledge and experience, probably on a predefined regulatory strategy and the relevant tasks for those. We also want to start off, or at least we have the opportunity to start off with a predefined template for resource allocation, saying that these are the kind of resources we need for this particular project, and these are the skills we need. What it allows us to do is to execute a controlled task execution. So whatever activity we want to perform has a separate task in a work breakdown structure, which can refer to a deliverable. It can refer to a template, a document template. It can refer to a checklist, and it can refer to a decision to be made or an approval review to be made. So both for the specific tasks, we'll have checklist contents and deliverables, but also for the different stages or gates, we have those. And we provide the tools for doing routing and reassigning of tasks, but also the decisions made at specific milestones or specific gates, gate reviews or meetings. And that is a requirement for us to be compliant, that we track those decisions, and it's clearly stated who made the decision, why, and at what time. As mentioned, for the deliverables, whatever is defined as design input, design output, or anything related in the DHF is automatically typed. So whenever the deliverable is stored, it's also making a trace within the DHF. So someone, for example, someone from quality assurance who are interested in the progress of a project or the progress of product development can at any point in time review the DHF rather than trying to understand the status in the bill of material or the status from the drawings or the 3D models. So this means that we have an automatic audit trail, and this has the same format as any audit trail on the documentation, on any part changes or bill of material changes. So it's easy to track and follow. So the scenario we'd like to go through, it covers 4 different roles. The lead is a program manager. So his name is Chris, and he will initially create up a project from a template, and we'll look at how could that be done. What he does is then to review that status, perhaps together with a regulatory engineer, to check the different tasks, review, do I have the appropriate task, perhaps perform some routing to review it together with colleagues. And then when the tasks are agreed, they decide to assign resources. So the system provides capabilities to define resource pools within the company, typically a functional area or a specific site. And then the project requests resources with certain skills, certain roles, or resumes. And if approved, they will be assigned to the project. When the task assignments are done, the project is started, which means that all the tasks are prepared for being sent out, and then they're automatically launched when completed, so that everyone can follow the global status. And it's automatically driven, so it's task execution for the complete project. We will follow specific tasks going out to design engineer, for example. So when the design engineer, I think his name is Phil, when he logs into the system in the morning, he sees his to-do list, a task list, where he has his
task assignments. He can see the priority, any due dates, and for each and every task he'll see a checklist and the relevant contents and what to do. When done, he will send off his work for review by a senior engineer, and when that senior engineer has done the review, it is stored towards the system and stored towards, for example, the DHF. And if the quality lead is checking the status in the system, he or she will go directly and view the DHF to see where we are at the time. And in this fashion, the task execution continues until completion. And in the meantime, of course, we're providing visibility on project status, visibility on potential bottlenecks, support for creating issues or risk and resolving those, the standard project execution functionality required for global product development. So instead of reviewing this, we'll go into the environment, demo environment. So I'll log in as Chris. So I'm project manager. For those, and I saw some new faces in the, or visitors in the webinar today. So for you who are new to Enovia and the 3D experience platform, this is what the user interface looks like in this specific case for a program manager. So I review all the different active projects where I'm involved. Projects could be change projects, which are typically smaller ones, faster ones, which in turn could relate to changes or COPPAs or whatever drive for that change. It could be new development projects, such as these cases here, which will be more extensive projects. And it can be regulatory projects, which typically just relates to a technical file and the specific tasks relevant for a technical file. So, but they're all structured in a similar fashion. So let's have a quick look at an ongoing project. So this is what the project dashboard looks like, and as you can see, it's a stage gate project with the different phases followed by different gates and gate reviews. Before going into that, as mentioned, since there are some new phases here, to get you acquainted with the user interface. So up at the top, I have a search where I can search anything in the database, assuming that I know the name or whatever it might be, and part ID or project name or whatever object or item I'm looking for. And this is a rather typical setup. I have specific searches for changes, for parts or engineering related topics such as specifications or reference documents. I have searches for requirements or requirement specs. I might have some quality related searches. On the left hand side, I have the compass that allows me to switch between different functions. So assuming that I have the licenses, I have always access to the complete portfolio of functions. Whenever I would like to switch to a specific function, if I want to switch over to a quality process, COPPA, or audits, or requirements, traceability, or complaints and MZRs, I just switch to the different application. If I'm design engineer and I want to switch to my CAD system, say SolidWorks or CATIA, this is where I go over to the CAD environment. If I would like to switch to finite element analysis or process simulation, I switch to my other applications for this here. But we will stay in Innovia, and we will stay in the program functionality and project functionality. So I have my different stages here, and if I select on a specific stage, I'll open it up, and it will detail the different tasks within this stage. So as we can see here in the ideation and requirements phase, so one of the early phases, we have specific tasks for setting up the customer focus group, reviewing medical advisor service, doing analysis of competition. And for each and one of those, we can display dependencies, we display their status, if they're active or completed, and the level of completeness, potential actual duration, and what was the planned duration, and if it's a mandatory task, and who is assigned the specific task. So it's whoever is familiar with MS Project, for example, will be familiar with the notification here. So since everything is green here, it tells us that yes, this stage is done and it's all completed. If we want to review the deliverables, these are the icons for deliverables. And if I just, and I can see that this is part of design input, that's how it's typed for the DHF. It was delivered on time. If I want to have a closer look at this document, I can see that it's a quality system document, it's a control document, it's followed some kind of approval process. I can drill down additionally. Perhaps I would like to view the document. Let's open behind here. So downloading it with the click of a button, it's launching a Word document, and if my settings would have been right, it would have pre-populated this template, and I can review it directly. So that's the connection between the stage, and the stages, and the tasks, and the deliverables. Also, what I have here are the different tools for collaboration. So I have relevant bookmarks. It might be external bookmarks which have reference to different regulations which I use and have set up for this project. It could be internal references for SOPs or the other control documents available outside of this platform. I have an overview of the formal decisions already made and completed, so I can see what was decided by whom at what date. I have the meetings, which are the actual meeting as we typically define them in Outlook. So they have a representation in Outlook. This is where I set them up. This is where I define my WebEx account or telco details for that specific meeting. The essence of having the meetings and the decisions present within the platform is, of course, for the traceability. So I can see exactly who made a decision on a particular gate, on a particular topic at any point in time. So this is required for traceability according to FDA requirements, as well as MDD requirements. And this is how I store that information, having it in the same platform where I have my design documents and the product referential and my change control. I also have discussions here, and these are discussion threads. For discussion threads, this is typically information which is less formal
or rather informal. And it might be that it's information I don't want to share with regulatory authorities. But I want them to be available for my team. And since we're in a global context, I need some kind of capability to, wherever I am in the project or my product, start a discussion and share it with my colleagues. This discussion thread or these discussion threads can be removed at the gate reviews or after gate reviews, so there are no ambiguities in our audit trail when it comes to audit reviews. So this is one way to handle both the informal communication within the team, which we really would like to keep, but perhaps not keep for the authorities, so we know that it's protected information, and the formal regulatory or regulated trace on meetings and decisions. Then we have the standard project execution items. So if I have an issue or whenever I have them and I want them to be reviewed by the project manager or the QA lead for the project, I raise them as any issue in any project. Same is true with the risk. If it's risks for the progress of the project. As stated in our last section, we have always a connection between the project and the product. So in this case, it's the connection to the prototype or hardware product, so that we know which prototype has been used for type tests and validation for our compliance status for product compliance. We can see who's assigned, and under schedule, I have my work breakdown structure as I showed you before. Going back to the overall view, I can see clearly my different gates. For each and every gate, I have meeting defined, I have a checklist defined and decisions. And I have the deliverables on this specific gate review, typically a protocol for the meeting. But I can use the decisions in the system for the proper trace on the decision. So typically is the preparation for the meeting is done during the phase, and then the gate reviews is just short assembly, going through the status and clearly communicating that we're progressing. If I look at the current phase where we're active at the time being, I can see that we have a few completed tasks here which have been delivered on time. I have one task which is active. There is actually a deliverable which has been checked in here. And it's one of the mandatory tasks, so it's still open. So from here, what I'd like to do is to explain how a typical project is set up and initiated. So I'll switch to a different demo environment. I'll log on as a project or program manager again. And this example will use some different roles. So we'll see how it might differ for different different people. So
I'm logging into the system. I have some standard question. And in this case, I'd like to create a project. And I have different ways of starting up a project. You could either start it from scratch, building it from scratch, or if I want to do a variation on an existing project, I'll copy it from a known project, and it will copy everything relevant for the regulatory strategy and the project setup, so the resource plan or the task WBS or VBS. I could import it from MS Project or some other tool, which is typically used in enterprise project management, say PlanView or similar tools. Or I can create a project from an existing template, and that's what I like to do in this case. So I have different templates set up, and I could have quite a large library of groups of templates and detailed templates. I'll come back to later on what would be different settings for templates. So in this case, I have some different regulatory strategies represented and requirements. I select a development template for a new medical device. Then I receive a number of qualifying questions, and these qualifying questions are administered by a qualified super user or a champion, typically with a regulatory background or product management background. And depending on the answers on these questions, different tasks, mandatory tasks, will be added to the project setup. So some examples here. Do you need a process qualification review? And I select yes. Does the device require subsystem validation? Most likely. Does the device require first UDI publishing? So we're getting closer to the UDI timeline. So it might be a class 2A or 2B product. Do you plan design verification review? Of course. And do you need a special abbreviated 510K submission? So assume that that's the case. So I'll come up with an appropriate name. So it's a standard project. So new product development. It will go with Euro. I might not have a program defined for it. It will initially be visible for the members. Let's find the appropriate business unit. And these could be any definition of sub-business units within any global organization. So we have a start date, which we define, and it could be, say, from tomorrow. And we have always a possibility to load a resource plan template. So we might have different templates for different skills, for different resource pools, for different geographical areas, etc. In this case, I select standard. The values which are marked with red are those which are mandatory. The ones which are with black font is optional. And if I'm satisfied with this, I just select next. And it asks me to review the choices I made.
and I select done. So what it does now is really builds the complete project setup, and there are some more advanced regulatory strategies behind this project. So it's generating the relevant tasks, combining that with the resource plan to give me the appropriate setup. So while it's working, I'll get back to the presentation. So what we did was we started from a project template, and we answered some questions. And that question, depending on the reply there, it will give us different tasks combinations. And it's controlling the mandatory or reduced tasks. So it's enabling official and fault-free setup of the project. Typical aspects reflected in the questions will be type of project. So in this case, we selected new product development, but you typically have templates for phase out, for changes, for specific quality related processes. You typically have different templates for your class of device. If it's class 3, if it's class 2A, 2B, or class 1, it will have quite an impact on the regulatory strategy and the deliverables required for each and every risk class. Targeted markets, so of course that will determine our submission tasks and the details for the submissions. As you saw, if we wanted to start off from an existing project or an existing product, we had that option early. We had could have more advanced options for costing and for more advanced sourcing strategy. And then it's always a question of IP control, internal, external access, not necessarily reflected in the choices we made in our example there, but that's a common choice for setting up project access rights, and it's a common approach to handle it within the folder setup in a project. I also want to, at this point, connect back to what we talked about in our last session, how we're building compliance into the project, and this specifically related to the DHF. So there are some clauses, of course, in FDA 21 CFR 82030, equivalent to section 732 in the 13485 standard. So there are some statements that we should drive the DHF elements through a stage gate project, or rather by the project. We want to have the approval process reflected, and whatever was reviewed all through development. And that's what we have with us with the stage gate process. We also, as stated in the same paragraph further down, item C and D, we want to have the specific date signature, the full name of the individual behind the approvals, potentially a comment on the motive for the change or the approval, and that should be reflected as well. And that's what we have with us. So whatever we state in the system, we will track that. As I showed you, we had a specific column for DHF where we could review the deliverables, and that's something we have with us until completion. We also at any point in time know exactly who's assigned to the project and what role do they have, and we make sure that they have the appropriate role. And of course, since we're executing according to our plan, and that's the whole idea with the work breakdown structure, we're really making sure that we're following the intention and the approved design plan, and we're connecting design input, design output, and requirements to that plan. And that's what automatically happen as soon as we're logging into the system. Let's go back and just have a look at the project. It's now created. So as soon as it's created, it's also launched, and we can see that it's grayed out, and that's because we haven't started the project yet. And if we look at the first phase, we have the breakdown there of the work breakdown structure, all the different tasks. So everything is really prepared for this. So there's no assignment in this one yet, and that's just stated the different project roles this far. So if I want to assign the different tasks, I need to switch to the assignment view. And in this case, perhaps I want to review some tasks, add specific tasks as part of my whatever comes out of my standard setup. So everything is editable, of course, with the right privilege and the right role, and we'll be able to edit this all through the execution. So I'm interested in the different efforts in the plan here, and I'm interested in the assignees. And the different role assignments. I can switch out to the overview of the project and my resource plan. And I can see here for my different roles, I see exactly what are the different assignments for different phases, how much of each resource will be required, and I can apply standard costs here. So typically I'll go in and perform changes on this one. I will go into separate tasks and do modifications here. And whatever change is done is traced up until I store this towards the database. So I might do multiple changes. When I'm satisfied with these, I can see clearly here that there have been changes. And when done, I'll just save. And those are committed to the database. So also from here, since we're in a global project, I need the discussions capabilities and the subscription capabilities. So if I'm on a particular tasks and I want to discuss it with my colleagues, I just create a discussion thread on that item. And this is typical discussion thread, which we of course want to keep and share as information, but we don't want to share it with at the time of any audit. Now I had some issue with storing this towards the database. I'm probably not having the appropriate access rights, so I'll go back to my project in this case, and we'll have a closer look at what a next step in the process might look like. So we had a quick look at the project creation from template. We looked at the tasks, the grayed out tasks, and they will be grayed out until I start off the project and all the tasks are sent out. So it's mass distribution of tasks. All tasks which are not mandatory can be removed, and you can add as many tasks as you like, assuming that you're having the appropriate role of a project manager or program manager. So what does the actual task look like for the specific design engineer? So let's have a look at the daily dashboard of, let's see what we have for users. The daily view of a design engineer might be different from that of the project manager. So what we saw as the program manager was the different projects. Here we might focus on tasks instead. So oh, here it zooms in quite aggressively. I'll just change the size of the window here to something which is easier to overview. So here I have my to-do list. These are my tasks, and some of them are approval tasks. Some of them are review tasks, perhaps. No, it seems to be approval task, all of them. So if I look at one of these tasks here, the information provided is it has a information on what I'm supposed to do. So it has an instruction. So here it says, please provide detailed analysis of the issue. The issue in this case is a complaint. So I select on the issue to understand what it is and what it's about. And I can see that it's a complaint evaluation in this case. So in this way, complaints has been sent into the PLM platform through a CRM tool. It's been classified and evaluated, and I've received it as content for an issue, probably because I've been involved in this project in the past, and perhaps I'd like to understand what kind of product it is. I'll select on that one. So I'll realize it's one of the defibrillators. So it's a product I've been involved in, and if I'm unclear of the history and the audit trail on this one, I'll check the audit trail directly in the system. So going back to my my tasks, and in this case my detailed investigation. In this case, I'll would like to understand also how it's routed, who is involved in this decision. So I select on the route, and I can see that, okay, it's gone off to a regulatory leader in parallel with myself, and I'm assigned to do the detailed investigation. Fine. If I'm so I'll do what's required on the complaint, and if I'm fine with that, I'll approve or reject or abstain. And also these task approval or rejections or comments, of course, are controlled with Part 11 compliant approval signatures, and whenever approved, it's automatically traced in the audit trail. So in this way, all people involved in the development project or in design controls receive their daily task, and it might come from the project, as in this example, or in the previous example, or it might come from a quality department issuing complaints. But all the tasks are handled in the same way, and my resource allocation are treated with regard to and displayed with regards to all the tasks I have in my inbox. So I know what are my assignments, how heavily are I loaded, and what is my resource situation. One more thing I'd like to give an example on is if I'm having a different role. So let's log on as in the same environment, but as a quality lead. I'll log in as David. As you can see here, as quality lead, I have a different entry view, but of course the system knows which project am I assigned to. So if I go to my my Power View, there I have my task inbox. I know which tasks are assigned, independent if they're process related or project related. And of course it knows what kind of projects I'm involved in. And I have a somewhat lighter view on the assigned or the programs connected to the projects, and most likely I have only quality related projects here. It relates to current phases. So in this case, I'll dive into a submission project. And same look and feel as the new project, new development project, but in this case, it's directly dedicated for the creation of a technical file for a submission. So the deliverables are, of course, more strictly controlled. The contents might be somewhat thinner. Okay, with that, I hope I've given you an overview on design controls, what it might look like in a PLM setup, going through the different tasks of building in compliance and building up the design history file when we are executing the development project. Last few minutes to answer questions. Okay, if you have questions and don't want to raise them in this session or do not have the possibility to do it, please email the questions directly to me and I'll respond to them separately. My email address in the window. And feel free, of course, to call me on this telephone number to answer, and I'll answer your questions that way as well. So with that, we're set to close the session. Before closing, though, I would like to mention the upcoming session next week, November 18. It will cover the quality aspects. It will also show how the different parts are coming together, how the quality processes are related to changes, and how they're related to new development projects. And I think it will be a good completing session for an introduction to how device development is supported with PLM functionality, and is really one of the cornerstone for building the quality into the new development projects and your changes, of course. So I welcome to continue another session next week. Topics on QSR, how we build in COPPA, NCR, complaints and audit processes into the PLM platform. More on this then, and thank you very much for attending today. So with that, I'll close the session. Thank you very much. Bye for now.